Nurses of psych wards, what did a patient do that left you speechless? This was actually in a state hospital that is part of the prison system for mentally ill offenders. Patient asked for Vaseline, which is fine. They can have Vaseline, whatever. But this patient was given a whole tub, so of course he stripped completely naked, covered himself in Vaseline, and ran. It was a secure unit, and he didn't escape, but we couldn't get him back into his soul shift because he was too fucking slippery. No more tubs. My aunt was a pharmacist in a psych hospital in Iraq. She told me that a family brought their son in. He was previously detained and tortured by Saddam's security. The young man was admitted as a severe case. He then started to hold imaginary trials and sentence people to death by hanging. One day they did find another patient hanged, dead, and the young man was standing next to him shouting justice was served. This might not fit perfect, but I love this story. How about in an inpatient addiction clinic? The first one that comes to mind was something I witnessed between a patient and another floor tech. We had a man who was in serious detox. Drug if choice was meth. He was throwing a huge tantrum, not uncommon in DTs. People will do just about anything to get a fix. We weren't a locked facility, so it wasn't like he was stuck there. He genuinely wanted help, that's why he stuck around, and we were there to listen and help him through the shakes, hallucinations, and other symptoms. He was slamming his fists on the desk at this point, and he had started just yelling, "I just want some fucking ice." Slang for crystal meth. Well, the tech with me was inexperienced, although much older than me, and while I talked to him and tried to calm him down, she went back to our staff kitchen and got him a glass of ice. Like frozen water. She brought it out to him and put it in his hand like problem solved, and the guys just froze with confusion, staring at it. The patient and I both realized at the same time she thought he wanted ice, and we just started at each other and started laughing. He was in for a rough couple of days, but I've never seen someone jump from near psychotic episode to giggling so fast. I honestly would have done the same thing as the nurse. I did something kind of similar once. I was working in fast food and my manager yelled, "Get that boy some milk," when a coworker was doing something stupid. I didn't know the meme, so I got a milk from the walk-in and embarrassed myself in front of the whole store when my manager just bursted out laughing after realizing what I did. Prison guard here. Guy cut his scrotum open to let people know he was serious. Don't know about what. Guy 2 cut off a butt cheek or a big part of and threw it at me as I tried to stop him. Guy 3 punched a wall 3 times really hard, bloody knuckles, and told me he punched the devil cause he was telling him to stab me, but in cool, so he told the devil to fuck off. Guy 4 pretended to drown himself in a toilet, basically splashed pee on his face, and rolled around crying. Guy 5 had sex with a window air vent and was compliant yet confused when I asked him to stop. Those were the days. Guy 3 just a homie, if we are being honest. Years ago, I was a student nurse doing my psych rotation in a Catholic facility. The nuns still wore habits and the building was like something out of the Dark Ages. I'll skip talking about the line of patients waiting to undergo ECT treatment in the basement and instead tell you about Maggie. She was a tragic case. She had been on lithium for years and it really kept her psychotic episodes in check until reached toxic levels and could no longer take it. One hot summer afternoon, we heard this banshee screaming coming from Maggie's room. We rushed in there to see what was going on. Entering the room, we are greeted by a scene I will never forget. This late 70s woman is standing on the window ledge, naked as a jaybird, screaming through the window screens at the nuns in the courtyard. "You fucking penguins are going to burn in hell." The poor sisters are scrambling to and fro trying to get away from the ranting madwoman's viscous verbal assault as we were trying desperately to pull her off the grating. I knew then and there that I would never become a psych nurse. We had an older black lady who would walk up and down the ward constantly mumbling. It never stopped. I think she would get something like Thorazine to calm her down, but she would fight it, and her eyes would be all droopy, and she'd slow down, but she kept going. Nobody understood a word she said, and she was there for at least over 6 months. She was punched out once by a patient while he was on the phone because she kept walking by ranting. He just lost it. Anyway, I'm up there doing a patrol one day. I was security and she's ranting and walking up and down the ward as usual, and they call her to come get her meal. She sits down and opens her tray and stops ranting and states clear as day, "I didn't order no diabetic tray, bitch." Every last person turned to her and all of our mouths were wide open. That was the only thing she ever said clearly. Thorazine is some of the harshest shit you can be on. It makes you feel like you are fucked up in the worst way. Imagine all the bad parts of being severely drunk with no euphoria. They call it the Thorazine shuffle because you can't walk without falling over. Was a living nightmare. I told the doctor every day it was making me feel like shit and he just kept saying in his Egyptian accent, "Give it time." Had a catatonic guy who could play the piano like a pro, classic, jazz, ragtime, but otherwise just sat in his chair and stared. I played a show once with a trumpet player who was also a home administrator for a facility that specialized in memory care. He told me about one of their patients who had been a professional musician in his earlier days. He was always playing the piano, but he only remembered one song, Darktown Strutter's Ball. The staff had tried everything to keep him from constantly playing the same song endlessly, but couldn't come up with an effective way to keep him from playing the song. He would bust the piano open. If they locked it, he would find it. If they hid it. Eventually, the administrator happened to be on that floor when the pianist was looking for his instrument and saw the behavior and the agitation it caused when he couldn't find it, and he said, "What are you doing? It's break time. Don't play through your break. Go over to the bar and get a drink." That satisfied the pianist and helped him to understand that he didn't need to play the piano at that moment. I wonder if they could just gotten him a digital keyboard with headphones and let him play all day long. Nowadays that would be a great solution. This story was told to me 20 years ago, and at that time it had happened far in the past. I'm guessing the story was from the late 70s or early 80s, when such technology was much more expensive and less common. We had a psych patient on our floor that wasn't really crazy, just really confused and unpleasant in general. One night I was mixing his drink with some thickener, and per usual he started yelling about me poisoning him. I explained what it was, and that we are all here to help him, not hurt him, and he responds with, "I'm just going to die." His vitals were fine, he was alert, no red flags, and like I said, he was always pretty unpleasant, so I didn't think much of it. Sure as shit, he coded an hour later, and we never got him back. Edit. Coded is slang for code blue, which is what they call over intercom/pages when someone stopped breathing or their heart has stopped. My man said peace out and fucking faded. The commitment of the lad. "You can't kill me, only I can kill me." Not a nurse, pharmacist. Had one of our clozapine patients miss a monthly meeting to discuss their medication. Called around. Found out she was in the ICU having eaten 2 of her own fingers, then visited her mother for coffee, still bleeding. Had a friend tell me of another patient, made a cut in his thigh and reopened it regularly until the whole thing was a scar tissue cavern, by some miracle avoiding infection. Started using his meat pocket to hold pens and coins and anything he could collect in his ward. Nobody knew until a paperclip pierced the side and he finally wound up with an infection that took him to ICU where they found his stash. Meat pocket. Jesus, dude. Obligatory, not me, but my former best friend told me the story. She wasn't a nurse, but did an internship at a psych ward for adults, and part of her internship was supervising the adults outside in the garden, making sure they didn't harm themselves, others and or run away, and to talk to them. She and about 5 patients were outside on a beautiful summer day, each relaxing and smoking in silence, basically just chilling, like fully functioning adults. Until one woman, about early 70s, no Alzheimer's or something, took her chair, pulled it right next to my friend, stepped on it, clumsily climbed the stone wall surrounding the small outside area, yelled "Bye, bitches," and ran away. My friend and the others just sat there, staring after her, not being able to believe what they'd just seen. She was found 15 minutes later, just wandering through the city looking for booze. I just can't not laugh at the thought of this granny climbing the wall and yelling "Bye, bitches" while fastly waddling away. And now, I finally have plans for my retirement. Not me, but someone I knew, was in a wood with a girl who wanted to be a vampire, and drank blood from her own tampons. It's as atrocious as it sounds. She was around 16 and schizophrenic. Reduce, reuse, recycle. I'm not a nurse, but was a patient once. Giant dude got upset one dude changed the channel from a football game he was watching and smashed his skull with his fists. Not fully, but enough that when they brought him back a few days later he started seizing and had to be removed again. Didn't see him again. Also, there was one lady who was straight out of the movies, walking around preaching the end of days loudly and sweating like crazy. I was a patient around a giant dude as well. The guy had an outburst, but afterwards ended up being drugged to the point of needing the walls to help him walk and a towel to wipe his drool. That scared me more than the giant dude himself. It feel like a movie where once you go in they never let you out. It's one of my childhood fears. You accidentally get put into a mental asylum and whatever you say or do only further justifies need of you being there. So after you are done trying to prove your sanity all that remains is abiding by their rules. And then when one day you get out, you start questioning your sanity. Not me, but my dad used to work in Arrowdale and J Ward, Australian insane asylum and prison for the criminally insane, respectively, in the 70s. He used to talk about sunny days in J Ward where they'd bring out all the inmates during a sunny day and they'd promptly line up and start jacking off. In Arrowdale they'd deal with the jacking off problem by strapping you into cotton mittens, but a lot of the inmates would chew a hole through them just to get a finger out to jack off with. His worst story was about a psychotic woman in Arrowdale. She had self-inflicted scars all over her face from scratching herself, self-imposed bite marks all over her body from trying to eat herself, and she had the nasty habit of chewing the inside of her mouth and spitting blood at your eyes and mouth hoping you'd catch one of the myriad of diseases she carried. I've worked with so many people who spit blood in your face when they are pissed. At first I was pretty impressed with the clever thinking, but now I just get annoyed that they are staining my clothes. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe and ring the notification bell.